So the next thing we're going to look at now is the reverbs and delay that I'm using for this record. When I mix, I use two reverbs. I'm using a room reverb first, and then I use the actual reverb that I'm using for the record. For the room reverb, I'm using the Fab Filter Pro R. Basically, the room reverb is just a little bit of reverb that you use to create a bit of cushioning between the vocal and the beat. Let's just say it helps your vocal stand out just a little bit. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's very important. The room reverb is a very short reverb, so my reverb time is set to like 0.54 seconds, like very, very short. Pre-delay time is set to 17 milliseconds. And if you don't understand what pre-delay means, pre-delay just means the time it takes before the delay kicks in. So there's a 17 millisecond delay just before we start to hear the delay in the mix. So the dry vocals play first, and then 17 milliseconds later, we start to hear the reverb. That's what pre-delay does. So let's listen to this with the room reverb.
Kanayo, Kanayo, I'm ready to sacrifice my love.
Let me solo the... So that's the reverb. You can hear it's very short. It just creates that tiny cushion for your vocals.
Kanayo, Kanayo, I'm ready to sacrifice my love.
And then next thing I'm adding is the main reverb for the lead vocals. I'm using H reverb. Now, because this is the main reverb, I'm using a longer reverb time. I've set my reverb time to 4.29 seconds. I made a video on how to actually calculate this somewhere in my channel if you want to check that out. And then I've set my pre-delay to 34 milliseconds. Again, the same principle. Dry vocals plays, it's a 34 millisecond pre-delay, and then you hear the reverb. Also something that I do for my reverb buses and my delay buses, basically. I use an EQ to cut some of the highs and some of the low frequencies, so the reverb sounds a lot cleaner. But I learned something very recently. I learned that if you put the EQ before the reverb, so that means your vocal goes through the EQ first before it goes to the reverb. It makes your reverb sound even cleaner. And I tried it before now, and it actually sounds better. So I am going to now be switching my methods and put the EQ before the reverb. And to be honest, it actually makes sense, because the signal part is your vocal go through all the effects in your lead bus, right? Comes out the way it is, go into your reverb bus, and then you can cut off the highs, cut off the lows before it goes into your reverb. So you just have a much cleaner signal. So you get the very precise frequency range of that vocal that you want to go through the reverb, right? That way your reverb is just clean. Let's listen to the reverb bus and hear what it sounds like.
Kanayo, Kanayo, I'm ready to sacrifice my love.
It's a clean reverb. Let's turn off the EQ for a minute and hear the difference. And then after. Right, so like that, the reverb is not going to compete with your main vocals at all, right? Everything will just blend.
Kanayo, Kanayo, I'm ready to sacrifice my love.
So the last thing on the vocal chain is my delay bus. Again, if you've watched any of my videos, you know I like to use Comeback Kit by Baby Audio. This is one of my favorite delay plugins. I've set my time to 1/4, straight, ping pong, feedback is 50. But I always automate these values in my mix just to create like a very, very interesting song or record. For example, let's look at that. There's no signal going to my delay bus here. By the end of the 4-bar, I increase delay send so I can highlight those last phrases.
I'm ready to sacrifice my love.
Right, and it goes down again.
Panadol, Panadol, come take my pain.
Right, again, so I automated the feedback and the delay send so I can highlight those last phrases. And I've done that at different parts of the record as well. Because you don't want to have the same amount of delay across your mix, right? You need to be able to create a very interesting mix and paint a picture. Like for example, down here, I've dropped the feedback to 30 because I don't want too much of it. So this is a professional way to use delay in a mix. For the hook part, I've done some things differently. I've EQ'd a little bit differently. I'm using a much bigger reverb just to, you know, create that sense of a hook. And same thing, I automated the reverb send as well as the feedback amount for the delay. So what else have I done for the record? Okay, so there's this part. Again, I've created a different bus for this, ad-lib bus. I'm also treating this one a bit differently. I'm using a different reverb for this ad-lib reverb. It's a much bigger reverb as well. More delay for this part just to create that.
Kanayo, Kanayo, I'm ready to sacrifice my love.
You know, just to create that very, 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 very big and dramatic feel. And obviously for the deep voice, I'm using this vocal transformer from Logic to achieve that. It's very easy. Just turn the pitch down to 12 and adjust your format as needed. If I want it deeper, I can just drop the format. Let's try down here what it sounds like. Right, or if I increase the format. Right. But for this song, -4 worked for me, right? So that's what I'm using.
Ready to sacrifice my love.
Mixing vocals is a very, very important part of mixing a record because that's what people really, really get to listen to first before they start absorbing all your instruments. So if you've done your vocal mix perfectly, yeah, your song is going to sound very, very great. So there's one more thing I want to show you real quick. Now, this is a very important pro trick that you use to blend your vocals and your beats together. We'll look at these two aux tracks here. One is beat and one is vocals, right? So let's play.
Kanayo, I'm ready to sacrifice my love.
Right, so if you notice, the beat clearly is louder than the vocal. The instrumental at this point is peaking at -11.4 dB, and the vocal is peaking at, let's say, -12 to -13 dB. But when you're listening to the song, you can hear that the vocal and the beat sound like they are like on the same level, right? They kind of like fit into each other perfectly. I'm going to show you how to do that. So first thing you want to do is route all of your tracks that make up your instrumental, that make up your beat, to a new bus. So all of the instruments on this song have been routed to this bus. So when I solo this bus, all you're going to hear is the beat, right? So right, and then you're going to do the same thing for all of your vocals. All of your vocal buses, the reverb, the delay, all of the buses that you created for your vocals, you're going to route them to one single bus and call it vocals, because that's what I've done here, vocals. Right, or you can call it a cappella, whatever you like. Once you've done that, we're going to do something very, very amazing. Now, this trick is called EQ matching. What we're doing here basically is changing the beat with the vocals. So what happens is, after we've done the EQ matching process, whenever our vocals play, the beat will duck down just by 1 dB. But the way we're doing this is we're going to use EQ matching to cover all of the frequency range that the vocal will occupy in our frequency range. And we're going to do dynamic EQing for that frequency range, so that whenever the vocal plays, the EQ will reduce those frequency by just 1 dB. Let me show you how all of this works. So the first thing you want to do is you want to load an EQ on your beat aux track. And then you're going to do a high pass filter up to like 180 hertz. We just want to affect the frequencies around 180 hertz and above. Let's listen to that. So now, once we've done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to load up another EQ. So ignore this one that I've already done. The next thing we're going to do is sidechain our vocal bus to this EQ. So we're going to go up to sidechain and we're going to go to bus, and I'm going to go to 20 because I know that's where my vocals are. So now that I've done that, if you look down here, you see an arrow that is pointing this direction. It's letting you know that you've sidechained your vocal to this particular EQ. So the next thing we're going to do is go over to the EQ and set up our phase, right? So we're going to set this to linear phase, and then we're going to set to high. That's what we want. We want it to be high. We're going to go over to analyzer. We'll select sidechain. You select EQ match, and then you go to, again, external, sidechain, and then we're going to play the record. Preferably, I'll say play the record at the part where there's like high energy, somewhere like this. So at this point now, the EQ has analyzed the vocals coming from our vocal bus and has identified all of the frequency points that the vocals are currently occupying in the frequency range. So we're going to click finish. So now that we've done that, we're going to delete everything below 0. But so that we can see everything clearly, you're going to go up to this place. You see where it says 12 dB. Right, you select that, you go to 30. Yeah, so that's going to bring everything to view. And then we'll select everything below 0. And then we're going to just go X and delete. And remember, we only want to affect all of the frequencies above 180 hertz, right? So we're just going to go and select everything below 180 hertz. And then we're going to delete. Everything below 0 has to go. And then it's gone. And then we're going to select everything above 0. Go to our Q setting and set to tie Q. After we've done that, we're also going to go to the band gain and just set that to 0. Now, the next thing we're going to do is reduce our band dynamic range by 5 for now, just so that we can see the sidechaining happening. And now when we play the record, Let me put this back to like 3 first or 12. Right. So what's happening right now is whenever the vocals is playing, the EQ will sidechain the vocal to the beat. So it will drop the level of those frequencies in the beat so that the vocal can sit in those pockets. Let's go back and turn off this first EQ so we can hear the music completely. Oh, let's listen to before and after. So this is before. And then after. Yeah, that sounds good. So now the vocals is now like sitting inside the beat, which is just perfect. But also, we don't want this effect to be noticeable. We just want it to be there and do its thing, but not noticeable. So I'm going to increase our dynamic range back to like, say, just -1 dB, because we don't want too much. Just -1 dB. And then let me set this to 3. Right. You can see the frequency range ducking every time the vocal is playing. It's just amazing. So this is a very, very important step if you want to achieve that pro quality glue between your vocals and your beat. I mean, it's not necessary, but if you can do it, I'd say do it, because you're just going to achieve a much better sounding mix overall. All right. So there you have it. That's the mix breakdown for Kanayo. This is everything I've done to achieve a great sounding mix. I'm going to have to come back with another video to show you my mastering process. I know I said that before, but this time around I'm actually going to come back and do a proper video and show you my mastering process. But so far, this is everything I've done in Kanayo to achieve the sound quality. Kanayo drops on the 23rd. I know a lot of people have been asking, when is the song dropping? On the 23rd, right? But please, you can follow the link down below to pre-save Kanayo so that you're amongst one of the first people to listen to it when it eventually drops. So on the 23rd, though, mark your calendars. Kanayo is also the first single dropping from the Project Atmos EP that is going to follow after Kanayo. So much amazing music in that project, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it, okay? So that's going to be it for now. I hope you learned something that will help you improve your mix. And also, don't forget to like, subscribe, join the family. We are growing very, very, very fast. Let's get to 100K subs. We are already at 1,200. Mind-blowing. All right, so let's get to 100K. Let's build a community. Let's all learn. Let's all be dope, okay? And I shall see you on the next one. A peace.